It is 7 o'clock. I want to call to order the October term of the Williamson County Board of County Commissioners. If you would at this time, I'd ask you to stand for the invocation, which will be led by Commissioner Tommy Little. If you would at this time, please.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, thank you for giving us the privilege to be able to come here together tonight to deliberate. Give us wisdom to make the decisions we need that best affect the county. We ask that you be with those that are in the service of this county and this nation, overseas or here at home. Protect them and bring them back to their loved ones. Again, guide us through this night. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you would address the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated, please. Ms. Anderson, if you'd call the roll, please. If you're present, to press your white button, the present button, so that we can have a record of our attendance this evening.
We have 24 present.
Thank you very much.
Zero absent.
Everyone is present, no absentees, so thank you for being here tonight. The approval of the minutes of the September 14, 2009 County Commission meeting. These are mailed out to each member of the County Commission. I'll entertain a motion to accept. Motion is made and seconded to approve the minutes. Who moved over here? I heard several. Commissioner Davis, the second. Commissioner Chalfont, the second. Any other discussion on the minutes? See none. If you're in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Show it unanimous. One abstain. Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Williams abstained because he was not present for our last meeting. Also, the introduction and acceptance of the Highway Commission minutes. These were sent out in the packet to you. I'll entertain a motion to...
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Commissioner Hancock, the motion. Commissioner Cook, the second for the Highway Commission minutes. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Show it unanimous. We have no one signed up for citizens communication tonight. Under communications and messages, as is our normal practice, as this is the legislative session of Williamson County Board of Commissioners, we'd ask you to help us. If you have a pager or a cell phone, please turn it off or silence it so that it does not go off and interrupt our business tonight. I want to thank Mr. Lynn Sutton, one of our deputies that's always so faithful to be here. Lynn, we appreciate you. I know you've got a lot of things going on, and Sheriff Long, thank you for being here with us tonight as well. We always depend on our deputies to be here to keep us under control, so we certainly appreciate their being here. Still under communications and messages, I've handed out to you some items tonight that have been brought to my attention that were pieces of information, and I know we're working very hard to get all this material in the packets as they go out, but giving credit where credit's due, Commissioner Hayes and the folks in the tourism area have been working very closely with the governor on some reporting and stuff. Commissioner Hayes, I want to recognize you because one of the pieces that you've asked me to pass out tonight is something that's very critical that the commissioners need to be aware of, and I'll recognize Commissioner Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of weeks back, we had the Governor's Conference on Tourism. It was held in Murfreesboro, and our CVB staff was present, as was I, and several others. We always have conferences that are pretty detailed on marketing and other things, but the basic thing that we hear from the Tennessee Department of Tourism Commissioner are the reports on how we have done the prior year. Of course, this time it would be for 2008. The governor did gave a speech on the last day, and he congratulated the regions who either held their own, lost very little, or did very well. We're very pleased to state that we are proud of the way we have reached our numbers this year, and we know the challenge has been great. We were so afraid that we would fall far behind Rutherford County because Rutherford County has the new conference center, they have the new embassy suites, and so much. Tonight, I've asked Mark Shore, our executive director, to be here and give you a full report, and then I'll ask that he'll tell you a little bit about the preservation conference that's in Nashville with tourists coming to Franklin. So, Mark, with Mr. Chairman, if you would allow, please.
Mr. Shore, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Glad to be with you all tonight. Sometimes we are working so hard at achieving our goals for you that we forget to tell you. So I'm glad to be here with you tonight and share a little bit. This was a rather large booklet. If you can look at the bottom, one of the pages is 51, but I took out what I felt were the most important pages for you. And page 51 shows us where we ranked within the region, the Mid-Cumberland region, with an increase from 2007 to 2008 in travel expenditures of 9.6%. The region averaged roughly 3.5%, and the state averaged roughly 1.5%. So for us to have achieved a 9.6% increase from 07 to 08 is certainly something to recognize. And as Commissioner Hayes mentioned, one of the things that we work diligently is to stay ahead of Rutherford County, and we did maintain our number 8 position, and in fact a little bit of a gain in that number 8 position in terms of the total expenditures within the state. That does keep us in the top 10 counties within the state of Tennessee in terms of tourism and travel-related expenditures. So I hope you'll find that pleasing. This year is still a challenging year in 2009, but we are doing our best. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you was our 2009 and 2010 marketing plan. And I leave that with you for your review. Certainly if you have questions, you have 4 representatives on our board of directors, Commissioners Hayes and Cook, and Commissioners Mills and Smith can answer questions for you as well, but I'm also available at any time. I think you'll see we've done some creative things this year. Obviously, we faced a budget cutback as well, but we are doing some innovative things, especially in terms of social media, and really working to keep our name out there in front of both the leisure traveler, the meeting planner, and the group and motor coach market as well. So if you do have questions, I'd be glad to answer that, but I submit the marketing plan to you for your review as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you.
follow-up, Commissioner Hayes?
Just if you would mention the preservation conference.
Thank you. This week, the National Trust for Historic Preservation is holding their annual conference in Nashville. It is about a 30-year rotation before it will come back to Tennessee again, so we're really excited to have that group here. With our designation for Franklin as a dozen distinctive destination in 2009, and our previous designation as a Great American Main Street, which is a National Trust Award, this community has garnered 8 of the field trips. I think you may have seen in the paper it said 2, but those are just 2 that go to Franklin. There are 8 that are actually coming into the county during this week. So busloads of folks from all over the country looking at what we do well and looking at case studies and field trips to see how they might take some of the successes we've had here in Williamson County back to their home communities. There are about 2,500 attendees in downtown Nashville this week, so if you see some tourists wandering around in Williamson County, odds are that they may be with the National Trust, so welcome them as well.
Any questions, Commissioner Cook? Any follow-up? Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Mills?
I'd just like to follow up with the tours that we're having, and we're very pleased to announce that one of the tours is the African American Historic Tour, and I was told by Mary Pierce that those tours sold out before any of the other tours, and so tomorrow at 11 o'clock they will come to the Macklemore House, and then they will leave there and come over to the Bazias Harris Community Life Center, have lunch, and then come back by Shorter Chapel, and then visit some of the other churches there. So we're very pleased about that.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else? Thank you, Mark, for being
Thank you.
here. Thank you for a report. Also, we've got with us tonight the chief person with Williamson County Franklin Chamber of Commerce, Nancy Conway, President CEO. Nancy's here and brought us some brand-new copies of the Williamson County brochure. Ms. Conway, would you used to make a comment on this information, please, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Mr. County Mayor, other elected officials, it's a pleasure to be with you this evening and to bring you a copy of the Williamson County Magazine. That's the 2009-2010 edition, and it's now available at the Chamber office. Each year, this publication proves to be of great value in offices, places of business, homes, and continues to serve as an important piece in various marketing plans. It's also a major information piece as well. In addition to the interesting articles, it also contains the current Chamber membership that also includes affiliates, the Fairview Chamber and the Nolensville Chamber. And we ask everyone to remember those Chamber members and do business with them. But most of all, we encourage everyone to do business in Williamson County. I want to thank the businesses that assisted the Chamber in making this possible by their advertising. But I also want to make it known to everyone that we sincerely thank each of you as county commissioners for what you give to this county, your time and your dedication, because it's because of you working so hard with many others that contribute to the quality of life throughout the county, as well as Williamson County being a great place to do business. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Still under communications and messages, we have one late filed resolution. If you would look at it, it's 100917. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a lease agreement for the Williamson County Recovery Facility. This information is here for us consideration tonight unless there are objections. Any objections to 100917? I see none. We'll put that at the close of the agenda. Last item under the other section, so we'll take that under consideration this evening. Reports, county offices, County Mayor Rogers Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could have David Coleman to give us an update on the financial condition.
First of all, Mr. Chairman, let me say we apologize for some of our reports being handed out tonight instead of in your packet. But during these times that we're going through, we're trying to get you as much up-to-date information as we can, as quick as we can. So rather than let some of those wait till next month, we want to go ahead and get those to you. The first item is the report from the Cool Springs Conference Center. As you recall, we had a couple of bad months early in the summer. August improved a little bit. We had a loss of $2,257. But then the report that we got today on September also shows a loss of $23,828. So we will continue to watch that very closely and hope in the fall and winter months they'll be able to turn that around. The next item that we look at each month is our privilege tax report. We have that for September, which we just closed those books out at the end of last week. $128,000 in the schools in the regular privilege tax. And if you look at the graph that we've been giving you from the IT department, we appreciate them providing that. You can see that we're just not making any improvement in that area. We continue to watch that and watch for signs of improvement, but we're just not seeing anything consistent there right now. And then finally, we have our monthly report that we've given to you for the month of September, first quarter of the month for all the budgets. And there's still nothing there that appears to be out of line. Everything's tracking pretty much like it should. Up at this point in time, we would have little or no property tax collections, but starting in the month of October, we'll start seeing those come in. So any questions, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Coleman? I see none. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, my remarks will be very brief. Later on, you're going to be entertaining Resolution 100915 and 100916. Both of these resolutions are in regards to bonds, so I will allow that discussion if I can at that time. We've got a couple of people that will be addressing any of your questions that you may have at that particular time, but I'll entertain any questions.
Any
on anything
questions of
else.
Mayor Anderson at this point? I see none. Thank you, sir. Dr. David Heath, Interim Director of Schools, Williamson County.
I, too, have a brief report. Just say that we are experiencing a very small decline in enrollment after the first 2 months. We'll be looking at that carefully as we make projections for next year. It's the first time in a long time that we can say we're actually experiencing a little bit of a decline. It's about 30 students, but if that decline continues, then it will affect our course projections for next year. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer those.
Any questions of Dr. Heath? You'll be here during the meeting, Dr. Heath. May have some questions. We'll get to some of these
Yes.
funding issues, so thank you, sir. Any other department wishing to report, county government, any committee information updated on the reports under this section of the agenda? I see none. Moving on to elections and appointments. There are none tonight. Notaries, you've received the information from Mrs. Anderson in the mail as it relates to the adoption of the notary list. That's been presented to you. I'll entertain a motion that we accept and approve the notaries as presented. Commissioner Smith, the motion. Commissioner Cook, the second. All in favor of the approval of the notaries, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Show it unanimous adoption of the notaries that have been presented. On the, let's see, there is no consent agenda. Moving on down through unfinished business, new business, we'll move on into zoning. There's been listed on the agenda a public hearing, resolution number 100914, resolution of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners to endorse the College Grove Village Special Area Plan. This was listed as a public hearing, but we didn't advertise the public hearing. But in order to follow through appropriately, I will declare a public hearing open. And if there's anyone wishing to address this body on the public hearing for Resolution 100914, please step forward to the mic, identify yourself. We'll allow you to address the commission. Anybody wishing to speak? Public hearing is closed. Resolution number 100914, resolution of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners to endorse the College Grove Village Special Area Plan. Commissioners Lynch and Hayes and Walton.
Move for approval.
Motion is made and seconded by Commissioner Walton. This resolution has been sponsored by both Commissioners Hayes, Lynch, and Walton. Let's see the reports from the Regional Planning Commission. Commissioner Walton, please.
7-4-0 again.
Thank you. Budget Committee.
5-4, against.
5-4. Okay, go ahead. Report that again, Commissioner Little. I'm sorry, I didn't have your mic on.
5-4, against.
Thank you. So if we could, let's have an explanation from Commissioners Lynch, Hayes, and Walton to tell us what's happening on this resolution.
If it's okay, I believe I'll let my partner do that, but I want to say one thing. I want to commend the staff here at the annex because they've done an outstanding job on this operation.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hayes, please.
I certainly ditto that. They did an outstanding job and have worked really hard. This is the first of the special village study groups that was proposed in our comprehensive plan that we approved some months back. You remember there were 4 villages identified, and each one was to have a special study. College Grove has been number 1 and sort of laid some groundwork. The work has been long and somewhat tedious for the staff, but we've had so much interest in the community. It started off with 2 public hearings and then ended up having 4 total where people were coming and talking. The first two were a little bit shaky because the people did not know what to expect, and they were a little bit nervous about what were you going to come and do to our area. But after they realized that we really were there to listen and to see what it was they wanted, and their requests were put up on charts around the wall, and the next time there, they saw their own requests not only around the wall, but on the paper starting to develop some real plans. They very quickly got on board with, well, maybe this is a good thing. I was asked what the study area was this. You remember all of our communities, or many of our communities were called community crossroads. This was the crossroad area of College Grove with a slight expansion. They did go a little bit broader than some of the crossroad area, but not the whole property of the rural property of College Grove. That still is protected with our zoning of 5 and 1 acre lots. So if that answers that question. But as the development of the plan turned into a real labor of love, we had good people who were there and who were serving and who really did their homework between and after the programs and after the meetings. And at the end, it was all pretty well decided. They wanted College Grove to stay unique as it was. They wanted it to stay rural. They wanted it to keep the quality of life. They did not want any big box buildings. And they wanted it really to be preservation. They wanted green space, and they wanted the history preserved. And they really have a hope for the future, possibly even developing some sort of a merchants committee where they can redevelop their area. They referenced Leaper's Fork as being a pattern that they sort of wanted to follow. But it turned out to be really a good plan. I commend the staff. I commend all the ones who worked with us. And they're here in case any of you have any other questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Walton, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Lynch and Commissioner Hayes have spoken to this very well, and I don't believe there's anything I could add.
Well, thank you, all three of you, for the work that you've done. I know Commissioner Walton serves on the Planning Commission, and a great deal of work has gone into that. And I, too, Commissioners Hayes and Lynch, have heard from people that started out with wondering where this was headed, but they all were very happy to where it ended, and thank you for that. Any other question of any other commissioner on Resolution 100914? I see none. If you're in favor, this is loaded on the machine. If you're in favor of this resolution, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Has everybody voted or wish to vote? Record the vote, please, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
Thank you very much. Resolution is unanimously adopted. Appropriations Resolution number 10091. Resolution appropriating in the 2009-10 general purpose school budget $26,600 additional federal funds for personnel expenditures and instructional materials through a rapid response grant for the board's adult education program. Commissioner Hancock, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move this for the purpose of getting it on the floor and yield to the chairman of the Education
Thank you,
Committee.
sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Smith, the second. Education Committee report.
What you have before you shows 4 and 0. My record at that meeting was 5 and 0.
Okay. So, correct. The Education report, 5-4-0 no. Budget Committee, Commissioner Little, please.
4-4-0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Smith, you're chairperson of the Education Committee, please, sir.
This is a federal rapid response grant for adult education. No local county money, just make a provision in the budget for the grant funds.
Any questions of Commissioner Smith on 1091? Madam Clerk, the school board report was 12 yes and 0 no. If you'd record that, please. Anything further? I see nothing. If you're in favor of Resolution 1091, please press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Yes, I better vote. Okay. Record a vote, please.
24 yes.
Thank you. Resolution unanimously adopted. Resolution 10092, resolution appropriating $82,135 additional federal funds and transferring other funds for the American History curriculum writing grant, Commissioner Smith.
Move for approval.
Second, Commissioner, who is that, Lynch? The second, school board report, 12 yes, 0 no. Education committee,
5 yes, 0 no.
thank you. Budget committee, Commissioner Little.
4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, please, Commissioner Smith.
This is appropriating the third year of a federal grant for history curriculum writing involving Vanderbilt, Murray, and Williamson County, and no local funds, no match involved.
Questions of Commissioner Smith? I see none. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Has everybody voted that wishes to vote? Record the vote, please, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
Thank you. Resolution, 24 yes, 0 no. Resolution unanimously adopted. Resolution 10093, resolution amending the 2009-10 General Purpose School Fund budget for reading recovery, professional development expenses funded by other districts. Commissioner Smith, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Hancock, the second. School Board, 11 yes, 1 abstention. Education.
5 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, sir. Budget.
4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Smith, please.
These are pass-through funds from other districts through our budget that involves reading recovery, professional development that we assist other districts in, and no local funds involved, just pass through our budget.
Thank you, sir. Questions of Commissioner Smith? I see none. 1093 is up for consideration. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Record the vote, please, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
24 yes, 0 no. Resolution is unanimously adopted. Resolution 10094, resolution appropriating $14,253 from Extended School Program Fund, unappropriated fund balance for laptops and printers. Commissioner Smith.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Mills, the second. School Board report, 12 yes, 0 no. Education Committee.
5 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Budget Committee.
4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, please.
These are funds generated by fees to participate in the extended school program. This is a self-sufficient program, no local dollars involved, and they have funds that they've built up in the unappropriated fund balance to finance the purchase of these laptops to help them do attendance and financial accounting.
Thank you, sir. Questions of Commissioner Smith on Resolution 094? I see none. If you're in favor of the resolution, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Has everybody voted? Record the vote, please.
24 yes.
24 yes, 0 no. Resolution unanimously adopted. Resolution 10096, resolution appropriating and amending the 2009-10 assessor's budget by $4,750 for educational incentive salary supplements, revenues to come from state funds. Commissioner Little, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Mills, the second. Budget Committee report.
4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Little, please.
Because of a change in the state law, the employees of the assessor's office had received some direct payments from the state, and because of the state law, that has been changed, so this is to get it on our books.
Thank you, sir. Questions of Commissioner Little on 096? I see none. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Has everybody voted? Record a vote, please, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
Thank you very much. Unanimous, 24 yes, 0 no. Resolution 10097, resolution amending the 2009-10 Highway Department budget and appropriate up to $100,000 for repairs to rock crusher for safety compliance. Commissioner Little, please.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Lynch, the second. Highway Commission, 5-4, 0 against. Budget Committee.
5, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Little, please.
To meet compliance standards, this piece of equipment needs upgrading, and this
jaw crusher or whatever. I guess to remove any blockages safely, and so in order to do this, we need $100,000 to come from the highway fund balance.
Any questions of Commissioner Little on 10097? I see none. If you're in favor of this resolution, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Everybody's voted. Record a vote, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
Thank you. Resolution unanimously adopted. 24 yes and 0 no. Resolution number 10098, resolution amending the 2009-2010 Highway Department budget and appropriate up $36,500 for curbing on Temple Road. Commissioner Little.
Move for approval.
Second.
Who was the second? Commissioner Williams, the second. Highway Commission, 5-4, 0 against. Budget Committee,
5-4, 0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Little, please.
Temple Road, the work done out there, there is a part of that project where the curbing on the road needs to be done, which is not part of the original scope. So the highway fund, taking $36,500 out of the highway fund balance to do this part of that work.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Commissioner Little on 10098? I see none. If you're in favor of 10098, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Everybody's voted. Record a vote, please, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
24 yes, 0 no. Resolution unanimously adopted. 10012, resolution appropriating and amending the 2009-10 Sheriff's Department budget by $5,635.50. Revenues to come from state grant funds. Commissioner Little, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Chalfant, the second. Law Enforcement Public Safety Committee.
7 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Budget Committee.
5-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Little, please.
These are grant funds received from the state for training in the Sheriff's Department.
Any questions of Commissioner Little on 0912? I see none. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Everybody's voted. Commissioner Cook, please.
Thank you.
Record a vote, please, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
Thank you very much. Unanimous adoption, 24 yes, 0 no. Resolution 100913, resolution appropriating and amending the 2009-10 Sheriff's Department budget by $30,000. Revenues to come from Reserve Fund. Commissioner Little.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Wilson, the second. Budget Committee report.
5-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Law Enforcement Committee.
7 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Little, please.
We get these appropriations every now and then, $2 fee from a lot of our offices have this $2 fee that they're allowed to use, and this is the Sheriff's Department use of that fee for data processing equipment.
Any questions at all on that resolution? Ready to vote? In favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Everybody's voted. Record the vote, please, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
Thank you. Resolution unanimously adopted. Resolution number 100915, a resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation school bonds in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $41,500,000 of Williamson County, Tennessee, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of premium, if any, and interest on the bonds, and authorizing the reimbursement for funds previously expended for purposes authorized herein. Commissioner Little, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Mills, the second. Budget Committee report.
5-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, please, Commissioner Little.
I'm going to address two resolutions, number 15 and number 16, right behind it. Number 15 is the general obligation portion of it. Number 16 is the companion to it, which is the rural obligation portion. These are projects that have already been approved, and we have a number of people here, Sam Cruz, David Coleman, the Mayor Anderson can speak to this also. There's something different about these resolutions that we've not done before, and it's because of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. The federal government, and it hurts me to say this, which means that our tax dollars are being used to fund part of this. What is different about this is that, and one thing I want to make is that these two resolutions are set up with a ton of flexibility in them. This flexibility is to provide, when we're ready to go to market with these, the flexibility up to do 1, 2, or 3 different options of how to go about this. What's different about these is that we're not necessarily going to the tax-exempt municipal bond market with these, but rather be going to the taxable market. They're called Build America bonds, or BABs for short. These bonds, the taxpayers through the federal government will be refunding 35% of the interest cost of these bonds back to the issuer, so that the whole idea behind this is that some of the market has dried up because of the economic conditions, so there is not as much ready money out there. I'll give you, for instance, the state of California went after this market. The state of California, I believe, has the worst rating of all the states in the union, and they issued about $80 billion worth of these bonds. Got a 7% taxable rate on it, but they're getting a 35% rebate from the federal government, our tax dollars. Sorry, but getting a rebate on the interest cost on this. This is attractive on a number of ways, and it's providing liquidity to the market, hopefully to pick the jobs up, keep that going. That's the whole purpose behind this. It is good through 2009, 2010, expires January 1st, 2011. Once again, I said that unless something has changed, we don't have a set way of where we're going at this. Is when we arrive at the market, I think, or before we're going to see what the conditions are before we put these out. Now I'll turn it over to the guys to answer any technical questions you might have.
Thank you, Commissioner Little. One of the things, of course, it's a great asset for us through all of our workings in the past and on the leadership of Mayor Anderson is our AAA rating is definitely a help to us. Through this, it gives us some flexibility, and of course, we're committed to keep that rating at AAA. Mayor Anderson, you want to follow up anything? Commissioner Little has done a great job giving us an overview that we're looking for the flexibility. None of this is chiseled in stone, but we certainly have opportunities here and challenges as we move forward. You've brought Mr. Coleman and others here tonight, and I'll allow you to introduce.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Russell, you did a great job explaining. This is new territory for us too, and there's several pages there that you have in your hand trying to explain what we're doing. The fact of the matter of it is it's the short-term money that you all approved back in the first part of this year, and so we've decided to, because of the market conditions, to go after some permanent source of funding rather than take a chance. As many of you will remember, we had 2 years in which to make a commitment on those short-term notes. So this is one of the avenues that we're looking at because the market, as Russell has indicated, looks very attractive. The Build America bonds, one thing that Russell was talking about, does the best flexibility that we could see on that is 25 years, and that's a deviation from anything that we've ever done before. We've always locked in on 20-year notes, but the best pricing is on 25 years worth of these Build America bonds. Now, as the time gets closer when we actually do it, we may put our parachute on and decide not to open it. So we're staying close to this market, trying to understand it. And I was very skeptic about doing this, as well as Jeff and David, and I need to tell you that. If you're sitting there thinking, well, why would we go to 25 and break our norm because it's the best price? The other thing we're skeptic about, would the federal government continue to fund this 35% discount dollar, and that's a year-by-year opportunity. As Russell has indicated to you, though, several people throughout the United States are now going after that money. It's a taxable bond, which gives me some peace of mind that if Washington decides to change their philosophy and decide not to fund that, then they're going to have to deal with constituents all throughout the United States, not just a few or a handful of us here. I'll try to get David to touch on it a little bit more. Jeff is here. He's the guru behind this with Bassberry and Sims. We're here to address any of your questions because this is different. It's new, but it's something we have to go after to put these in place. You know, we're overshadowing by the tool we're using when we still have to build schools or fund the ones that we've got a commitment to. Before I leave the podium, Mr. Chairman, I think it's indicative and important for you to understand this is not everything that's on the school building program. Next month, if it goes through the school board, there'll be several other schools, several other projects, several other opportunities that you're going to see at additional funding for schools and land acquisitions for schools. So we're going to have a philosophical discussion based on what Dr. Heath has said, not solely on what he said tonight. We do have certain areas, like in Wilson and Paris area, that the Trinity area is overcrowded. Some of the other areas, and I do not have the ability to look into a crystal ball and see what's going to happen a year or two from now, based on the revenue, based on some of the things that are happening in our county. We are poised, we are positioned better than some of the other counties in the state, but we are not immune to what's going on at the sales tax level or at the property tax level. Joey does a great job of collecting the dollars, but the fact of the matter of it is the entire economy is hitting on about half of its cylinders of where it needs to hit. And so you need to be mindful of that, not so much on these if you have discussions, but be mindful of the fact this is about $80 million and there's several more $1 million coming next month. So I'll let David go from here, Houston.
Mr. Coleman, please.
I do want to introduce Jeff Oldham with Bassberry, and Sam Cruz had planned to be here. He's out of town and was hoping to be back, and he may come in any minute. But we've been really looking at these Build America bonds for 9 months or a year almost when they first came out. They're part of the stimulus package. First, we had a lot of hesitancy until we saw how they were going to work, working with the legal people and with Sam and trying to get educated on them, and Russell did a great job. But what we've done in these two resolutions, we've put as much flexibility in there, and Jeff has written that flexibility into the resolutions, that we could still do our 20-year traditional tax-exempt bonds if that's what we decide to do. But then we can do anything between that and the 25-year Build America taxable bonds. So we're just trying to have that flexibility. We've kind of asked you for that over the last year or two with the economy the way it is in several instances, so we could have that flexibility to do what we think is best for the county and save us the most money. Now, there are two or three reasons we're looking at this. Number one is the interest rate. We can get a very good rate right now in the market doing our traditional bonds. But also, if we can get a good rate on these taxable bonds and get the 35% refund from the federal government, hopefully it will come out even better than what our non-taxable bonds would be. There's even some movement in the market, and there's flexibility in this that a bidder could come in and build part of the 25 years at non-taxable bonds and another part with the taxable bonds. Because the reason the 25-year is so attractive to them is they're the kind of bonds that people are looking forward to put in retirement packages, 401ks, those kinds of things because of the longer life of them, and that's why they're more attractive. We did come to you last year when we started discussing the school's building program and the effect that would have on our taxes and all that, and we threw out an option at that time that we could borrow this money on 2-year bond anticipation notes, hold those for 2 years, not make any principal payments, and then at the end of that 2 years, go out into the permanent financing like we've always done on 20 years. The reason we've come back at this point in time with the permanent financing are the rates in the market. They're just historically low. I talked to Sam, I believe, Thursday, and they were even dropping some more. So we just feel like if we're going to do the permanent bonds, do you get the very best rate you can get now that's a historically low rate, or do you take your chances and wait 2 years and the rates maybe go up? And none of us standing here now has that crystal ball to tell you what's going to happen. We are going to structure these in such a way that the first 2 years we would not have a payment from the county debt service fund. Now, we would have an interest payment, but we are also recommending that we borrow this and we borrow the interest on the project, capitalize that interest for the life of the project, and 6 months after the project, that interest can be capitalized by state law. So we would actually borrow that interest, and even though we would have interest payments the first 2 years, we would have the money from the bond to pay that interest. Again, that's something different that we haven't done before. But all this is to give us that flexibility and to give us about 2 years to hopefully for the market to turn around, for the economy to turn around. One other factor in not waiting 2 years and putting this on a 2-year bond anticipation note is just what Mayor Anderson said a while ago. The information that we've gotten from the schools all along, and this is really no surprise, there are other projects coming. So if we put this off and wait 2 years, and then we got to borrow this in 2 years, and there's another pile of projects on top of that, you've just piled everything up on top of each other at one time. So a lot of thought has gone into it. We're not telling you we've got all the answers, but we're just asking for the flexibility. The schools, these projects have been approved. Leslie Holman has done a great job of working her cash flow on the projects that she does have, keeping the projects moving. But by middle of November, end of November, she's going to be short on cash. So our plan is, if these resolutions are approved tonight, we will go to the market the first couple of weeks in November and close before Thanksgiving. If you have any questions for Jeff Oldham, he'll be glad to answer those or anything else.
Mr. Oldham, if you would step up to the mic and we'll see. Anybody have any questions? This time I see, first of all, do you want to make any statement, and then we'll go to questions?
I'm Jeff Oldham at Bassbury and Sims. We serve as bond counsel and have for some time to the county. We represent you in this. What I can't do is advise you about financial matters. These guys have a pretty good handle on the options. Sam Cruz, if he were here, could tell you about that. I don't want to step up or speak out of school, so don't ask me about financial matters, but I can answer legal questions.
You say they're pretty good?
They're pretty good.
Okay. Commissioner Lynch, you're recognized, please, sir.
I just want to say, if we're going to vote for $80 million, we've got to have a lot of faith in David Coleman and the mayor.
You're exactly right. Other comments, questions as it relates to, of course, we're really talking about both of these resolutions as sister resolutions, because we'll vote this one and then we'll address the one after it. Commissioner Ford, please, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On these new Build America bonds, are there additional restrictions on those, either the use, the redemption, any other restrictions around those bonds that we should be aware of that are not on the traditional bonds that we've had?
That's a good question, and I think that's why I'm here more than any. We'll talk about the benefits first. The way you'll sell these bonds is the way you sell all your school bonds. You have an auction, basically. Low bid wins. And so what you'd be authorizing here is to allow bidders to bid for the bonds as Build America bonds. So the only way you would ever award Build America bonds is if they're the low bid. So lower interest cost is the benefit. The risks are a few. One, and I think you've sort of identified it already, is there some chance that the federal government elects in the future not to write you the 35% check back each 6 months. In that case, you don't have the same deal you had if you had done tax-exempt bonds. If you issue tax-exempt bonds, you know what your interest payments are for the life of the bonds, so you don't ever have to worry about it. I'm not here to predict what Congress might or might not do. I have no idea. I will say it's worth noting they have structured this so that it's a tax refund. Congress doesn't have to appropriate tax refunds. You know, when you get an individual tax refund, that's a check the Treasury just writes without congressional approval. So you don't have to worry about annually Congress appropriating this money. I think that's an important fact to remember. The other thing, there's two other things we've pointed out. One is there's some administrative hassle with this. Every 6 months when you pay interest, you have to file an additional form with the IRS that says, please send me my refund, just like you do individually. David's capable of handling that. I think with that comes, I think it's worth saying that the IRS is somewhat more likely to audit a bond issue like this when they're writing checks every 6 months. It just seems to me they're more likely to do that. This, like most of your bond issues, is a pretty straightforward, this is a GO bond issue or rural school. Financing schools is a pretty clean bond issue. I don't know how much risk I would consider there. And the last question you had, or last point I'd make is the question you had is, can these be redeemed? They can be redeemed with tax-exempt bonds. There's still some uncertainty about exactly how, if you were, most of the bonds you do, and these, I think, would have a 10-year, called a 10-year call. Mm-hmm. So for 10 years, the bonds couldn't actually be called. If in 5 years you decided, what, rates are a lot better out there, we can issue new bonds, basically refinance the mortgage. It's not entirely clear whether you'd have to fund the sort of taxable rate or just the net rate. So there's some mechanics in there that aren't entirely clear, and we've talked through that a little bit. But it's not an impediment to actually refunding the bonds. Clearly, 10 years from now, you can no mechanical problems at all, and certainly no problem conceptually with issuing tax-exempt bonds to take these out.
Okay, so just to follow up, you don't see any additional restrictions on uses? I just, typically, money that comes from the government comes with some sort of strings attached. I'm wanting to understand what those strings are before we get in.
The only string is new money capital expenditures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions? Mr. Sam Cruz just walked in the room. Sam, you got any comments on this process? We're underway looking at both of these sister resolutions. Great to have you here with us. Jeff has been carrying us along. Any comments on this? Because we're about ready to vote, I think.
No, I mean, I think I'm sure you talked about the Build America bond. I mean, the economics are definitely in your favor with that program. And it basically opens up a whole new investor base for these kinds of bonds. So that's the reason, of course, that we're looking at it, is from a savings standpoint. And I think also the decision we were making of should we do this as sort of an interim financing or a long-term financing. As the months have progressed, long-term rates have gone down to the point where I think it's more consistent with the way you conservatively manage your finances to go ahead and take advantage of locking in these long-term rates. So.
And just as a point of clarification from the chair, let there be no mistake, the entire $81.3 million that's in these two resolutions, we've already approved. This is just requesting that our bond counsel, working with the mayor and also Mr. Coleman, have the flexibility of funding the monies, because the 39.8 and the 41.5, we've already appropriated that money. So this is not a new appropriation. Follow up, Mr. Coleman?
Mr. Chairman, just one point, too, on that. That's very good. That, again, working with Ms. Holman and when she's going to need the money, we're asking for the approval of this roughly $80 million tonight. About $20 million of that probably won't be borrowed until the spring when it's needed. But this will give us the approval. We can watch the market and feel like the time's right, then we'll be ready to go.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Any follow-up questions of any commissioner as it relates to resolution number 15, 1009-15? I see none. For no further questions, we're ready to vote. Resolution 100915. If you're in favor of this resolution, press the yes button. Opposed, Commissioner Langston, did you want to speak? I'm sorry. Okay. Record the vote, please.
24 yes.
Resolution is unanimously adopted, 24 yes and 0 no. Resolution 100916, a resolution authorizing the issuance of county district school bonds in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $39,800,000 of Williamson County, Tennessee, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds, establishing the term thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of premium, if any, and interest on the bonds, and authorizing the reimbursement for funds previously expended for purposes authorized herein, if any. Commissioner Little.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Langston. The second. Budget Committee report, please.
5-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Any further explanation, Commissioner Little?
Nope.
This, again, is the sister resolution to the one that we've already addressed and passed. Any further follow-up question or information as it relates to 100916? There's no further question. We're ready to vote. Press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Record the vote, please.
24 yes.
24 yes and 0 no. The resolution is unanimously adopted as presented. Excuse me.
Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me. Go ahead. Commissioner Ford.
thank you. It's slightly out of order, but I wondered if I might ask the county mayor a question. I heard him mention that there may be additional school projects coming up next month before us, and just from our planning standpoint, I wonder if he could give us a little more information about that, if I might.
That's very appropriate. Go ahead, Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it is a little out of order. I'm going to ask if he would, Dr. David Heath, to join me. As many of you know, the school board will be meeting next week. This week, David. Next Monday. And I get a preliminary copy of their resolutions. And in looking through these, and yes, there are several there. And for an example, you're going to have to fund the operating side of the new Homestead Middle School. That's coming before you. That's the operational side of that. It's about $500,000. And then you're going to be asked to be funding the new Franklin Elementary School, which is over in West Haven, which, again, it's about $300,000. And both of these schools are slotted to be opened up in August of this next year, so you'll have two online. You're also looking at some costs for the new Spring Hill, the new South Spring Hill area elementary school that will be coming online. But the big cost that you're going to have to be, well, I see Ricky kind of looking at me, $300,000 for the new South Spring Hill Elementary that you'll be looking at. And if it doesn't come to us in November, it'll be to us in January. They've got to go through the mechanics of this. But you are going to be looking at some land, and you're going to, for the Trinity area out in these two county commissioners area, and that's got a price tag of about $20 million. And then you've got another middle school to eliminate some of the crowding at the Central Franklin area, to take some of the crowding off at Page Middle and Grassland, and that has got about a $22 million price tag on it. You've got $5 million for some land purchase on the east side of the county, which is over on the Brentwood side, and then you've got $1.5 million for land on the east side, likewise for an elementary school. So you've got several resolutions, and I know that everybody, and this is not to put David or the school board a big spotlight, but we just went through this about a year ago. We started the process, and we all worked together. And we're going to have to work together again on this, because if you put the math to all that, it adds up to quite a few dollars. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, how to handle that. Things haven't gotten any better. I want to paint that brush for you. But yet I know individual areas in the Trinity area and some of the other areas that we've got are very, very, very tight based on some population. And some of these will be adjusted, but I know you guys, because I sat there one time, we don't like surprises, and you're going to see this in the paper, and you're going to hear it on the WAKM and some of the other stations, and you like to know that up front as much as I can. So I don't have the answer, but the method we used last time was very laborious. It was very time-consuming, but it served our needs at that particular time. So if David wants to shed anything else on it, he can. It is what it is, and you all have to make that decision for funding. The school board has to make it from a side of numbers and et cetera.
If I could follow up, Commissioner Ford, to your request, Commissioner Williams, I'll allow you to speak, is, we went through the process last year of putting together a group of folks to study this very carefully, and I guess that's the question. One, should we do that again? Number two, and speaking with the mayor today, these numbers that he just read off to you total $70 million plus new stuff over and above what we've just looked at funding tonight. And then I guess my other comment that I would like to have Dr. Heath address, you've indicated that our enrollment is down. We didn't get what we projected this year. Does that have any impact on this whole program to cause us to rethink it and relook at it? Because I just saw information today that our sales tax collection is still dropping. Last year, year to month to date, it dropped 12-14%, and we're 5 or 6, 7% under what we were last year. And also address, with that given, what about rezoning? We've got issues that need to be looked at countywide as it impacts where these children are zoned to go to school. So with all that as a backdrop, and Commissioner Williams, let me get your question in case it addresses that you'd like addressed, and we'll have Dr. Heath address it.
You really touched on it when I wanted to ask Dr. Heath earlier about the drop in enrollment. And if you had an explanation for that, you said this was the first time that it had happened, and if you had an explanation for that or a speculation for it?
Well, if I were speculating, I'd speculate it's the result of the economy, but it was not a drop in any particular area of the county. And while, just as an example, we had one area in the Nolensville area this just in the past week that's picked up enough new students that we're going to have to add a teacher. At the same time, we're losing 35 around the county. There's not a spot where we lost a lot of students. It's 2 or 3 here, and we only lost 30. So that may, that way, if we lost 30 every month, that'd be a concern. But we've got to look at see if there is a trend that follows that. Commissioner Nairn mentioned that we lost or didn't have the students we projected, and that's true. But I would remind you that we did have a growth of over 800 students, which is, if you're looking at an elementary school, that's a new building. That was at the beginning of this year. So while we do have places where we're going to have some room, it's like it frequently is. It's not always in the right place. We've got 1,900 students at Rainwood at an 1,800 student school. We've got Grassland full, and last year we had an open zone plan to try to shift students from Grassland to where we did have room, which was Brentwood Middle. That was very successful. We got all the slots we needed, and Brentwood Middle's full again, and Grassland's full. So they're full, and that avoided putting 2 portables at Grassland, but there's not any place to give them any relief in a second year, for example. We couldn't offer sending more kids there. Now, yes, you could say theoretically we could bus some students from the Grassland area down to the New South Middle School, but that's not very logical. Or Heritage, that's a long way from Grassland to go down Columbia Avenue. So while it's there and there'll be some space in those areas, it's not a practical solution. We've got Independence will lose in a year and a half. Once we open the new South High School, we will have high school space, and there's some possibilities we can do a little bit with high school to move some kids. Not a lot, but we can do a little bit probably with some high schools if we need to move kids. We're asking for 2 land purchases because we know we're going to have to build a high school before too many years in the east portion of the county, the Nolensville area. And the land purchase is for land in that part of the county and for an elementary school in that part of the county, those 2 land purchases. And that's going to happen. It takes a long time to find land in that area that's suitable to build on, and so we believe that's a good expenditure of county money whenever we can buy land. But we need that land, and we're going to move forward with those resolutions and hope you'll support them. The Page Middle has right now, I believe, 4 portables, and we've owned land on adjacent to Oakview Elementary School on Henpeck Lane for about 8 years now. We've owned that property. It's 35 acres, and that is a property that we always intended as the place to reduce the Page population as well as some of the population at Grassland. So those are the places where you see the resolutions. They're not frivolous, but there's not any question if we were to drop enrollment and we continued to lose enrollment in the county throughout the year and didn't grow next year, then that might have an impact on some of these. It's just like the bond market. It's a crystal ball, and we don't have those numbers. Hopefully, if we see the trend continue through January or February when we start our end of the budget, we'll be able to make better decisions about that.
Any follow-up, Commissioner Williams? No. Dr. Heath, clarify one point. When you say we're losing enrollment, typically as we go through and we get through Labor Day, we pick up students. But what you're telling me is we're continuing to drop off. We gained, you projected significantly higher, but we only gained 880 students this past year. What you're telling me now, we're down under that number?
Well, we lost about 30 students in that first month, 32 students between the first and second month. We used to do that, and it really is a strange trend because up until about 2000, we always ended the school year with fewer kids than we began. But about year 2000, that trend began to change, and we began to gain students, and we actually built students during the year and would have approximately 300 students more most years than we had the first month by the 10th month. And we followed that trend since about 2000 until, through last year, we still were not losing students during the year. So we did lose 35 students, whether or not, 33 students, whether or not that trend will hold true or it was just a little bit left over of what we experienced the first week of school when we were losing a few students, then I don't know yet. But yes, that's true that we did lose them, and it's too early to say that's a trend that's going to follow through the year.
Would you agree that, of course, we had 880 growth, would you agree that the 500 that came from private schools, probably that's not going to reoccur this year?
Absolutely, I agree with that. I do not believe there'll be an additional 500 students next year coming from private schools. So if you look at that figure and say what our growth projection will be for next year, I don't think it will be anything like what we projected for this year. No.
And there were 100 of those 880 that came from homeschools.
Right.
So that leaves roughly 280 students that we grew that were considered new growth because the homeschool folks are already here and the private school people are already here. I guess that's why I just asked you the question, and of course would like the input from our county commission, especially Commissioner Smith as your chairman of the Education Committee, Commissioner Little as Budget Committee. how you would like us to proceed, because as we're faced with the real fact of life, we're going to be breaking in a new superintendent that arrives that has a lot to learn about what we're faced with here in this county, and I guess that's why I'm asking for the input. Over the next few months, we'll meet in November, but we'll not meet in December if the consensus of the body is that we need to relook at what we did before to formulate that, because as the mayor indicated, 60, 70 million dollars are going to be here. That's why I ask that, do these things that we're talking about tonight have any direct input on the 5-year plan or other things? Because to me, I'm just, as Clyde Lynch says a lot, I'm just an old farm boy at heart, but I have a business to run, and I know what I would do if I were faced with similar situations, and we owe it to the taxpayers of this county to become involved in that process, to look at every possible way, because to me, it's unfathomable that I could think about supporting $70 million more in addition to what we've already looked at tonight. But that's just, Commissioner Smith, I'll recognize you if you have any comment, or you and Commissioner Little. Mayor, you have any?
Well, I really appreciate you all trying to figure out some method. I was sitting over there watching Tom Bain, and I know he's a big Yankees fan, and I'm watching the Yankees come back. I guess they're still in it harder than anybody, and there's kind of a parallel here between baseball that's going on and what we're looking at again. Houston, your chairman and Commissioner Barnwell were down in Chattanooga this past week at a county commission and mayors, and it was a painted picture pretty much of doom and gloom as far as financial matters coming out of the state of Tennessee. Many of you know I have meetings with Charles Sargent and Glenn and Jack, and they're not being very encouraging either. The PEP funding is not as solid as you would like to predict. I think Dr. Heath would go along that you probably won't see any new money. You'll be fighting to keep the money that you've got. And so much of our money from the public education side does come from the BEP side also. So given all the news that David presents you every month, you've heard the request of Dr. Heath. I'm mindful of what's happening over in Trinity. It takes a year to do an elementary school if you've got the land. At the best that you could do in the Trinity area without some kind of zoning changes would be August of 2011. It's just almost impossible to get a school up in a year without paying a premium for that school. So you all are faced with some very difficult things. We'll do our job in the office and try to run many of these numbers down, but all of us realize you have to pay this money back, and we can do a lot of creative things working with Sam and Jeff. But ultimately, that's a lot of money, folks, and I just wanted you to know that before we got out of here tonight, because I know you feel good about some of the things we're doing creatively in the bond side, but understand this is just step number one, and there's some more steps coming immediately.
Commissioner Parr, I'll recognize you, and then I'd like to come back to Commissioner Smith and Little if they have any comments. You have the floor, sir.
Sure. A couple things. One, where's the kindergarten enrollment compared to years past? I mean, is it still growing, or has it started back off? And then I have a second question.
It's still growing. In fact, some of our biggest increases have been kindergarten. And the population that's here, there are a lot of young children, whether they are in school now or they're 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds. There still is a significant population of young children in the community. So we're not going to see a large drop in that group well, we're not going to see a drop in enrollments that's going to be significant unless there's movement out of the community by families more. And that's where what we have seen have been movement, probably due to job losses, but we don't have a way of tracking when somebody leaves, because frequently they're just notifying us by telephone that this is their last day, and kids turn in their books, and then we get a record from requests from another school. So,
And then in terms of just grade to grade, is there any grades that have a lot more students than others? Is there like a wave or anything that's going to come through, or is it pretty much from high school all the way down, it's increasing in number of students from 12th down to kindergarten?
I would have to look at it again. There is in our data, if we look across the county, there are a couple of years where there's either more, let's say, more fifth graders this year or fewer than you would see in the grades below it or above it. We do have a grade or two like that. We adjust that when we do our growth population. When we project for zoning and building schools, we are allocating the resource based on whether or not there's a decrease trend in one of those 12, 13 grades that we're looking at. So we do try to look at that every time we project out how long a school is going to last until it's full. In every zone, when we do a zoning for a school, we project out for 5 years, and we're showing all those trends in that 5-year growth. But I can't tell you without looking at it. I haven't looked at it this year. We're getting ready in the next month. In November, we will present a zoning plan for the school in West Franklin, the elementary school, the middle school, and because the middle school will feed the new high school, we'll actually be doing the zoning plans for 4 schools in November. So we'll be able to look more at that data, and I'll be able to give you more information later.
And will you be bringing new enrollment numbers when you come talk about new schools?
Yes, we will have, we update enrollment. We update, all of our data is updated pretty consistently throughout the year through planning offices. We update every year with all the planning offices in the county, what's left to be built out, how many permits are being picked up. So all that data is consistently updated in our projections. And we should be able to project. Again, we're projecting based on the only issue that I think we're faced with that's new to us is our projection methods have been very accurate. If you look over the years, if you project growth within 20 to sometimes 10 students in a county this size that's growing like we are, and we've been able to do that, it's pretty accurate. But it's difficult for us to project who's going to move out and when. We know who's here, but that's the unknown when people are leaving.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, any follow-up?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this. I think going forward with these kind of projects that we're facing, we're going to have to work together collaboratively and with the Education Committee and the Budget Committee and the Mayor's Office and obviously with the school board and school staff to try and work out how these things can be accomplished to best benefit the county and the school system. So I would want to look back at some version of what we did previously that seemed to work pretty well.
Follow-up, Commissioner Little?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the question is we're facing is, do we really want to do anything extra right now over what's going on? And I think with everybody being aware of the situation of where we are, we're getting great information from the school system. The mayor's office is doing a good job of compiling all this and getting it to us. So I think our present committee system will be able to handle it. And if we see something out on the horizon there, we can always jump back and jump in. So.
Well said. Any other commissioner wishing to make a comment or statement before we move on to the next item on our agenda? I see none. Moving along to our next resolution. Moving on to the other section of our agenda, resolution number 10095. This is a resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Green, please, sir.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Little, Tommy Little, the second. Report of the committees. This went to the Rules Committee.
Rules Committee voted 5-4-0 against.
It went to Budget.
5-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Green, please.
The Rules Committee met to go over the rules book as we know it, and as a result of that, we have 9 corrections that need to be made to the rules book. And it varies from simply changing some wording to Section 2, which has probably the most, might need some explanation. But are we going to vote on these individually? Or
No, sir.
No, sir? Collectively?
Unless,
Okay.
they're all in the resolution, so we could amend but we're voting on 1009-5 in its
In
entirety.
its entirety. Okay. As you can see down through there, that Section 1 has to do with just changing a word night to meeting. Section 2, which probably might need some explanation, but basically what it is it allows the commissioner to lay a motion aside temporarily without setting a time for resuming its consideration, but with a provision that it can be taken up again whenever the majority decides. The motion to table can be made and approved by a majority vote supporting the resolution, the motion as received. Then it goes on to say that whenever a motion or resolution has been presented to the Board of Commissioners and that amendment or amendments to the same have been offered, and after such amendments have been made, motion to table is made, each motion to table shall not take with it the original motion. So a discussion may cease after the motion to table is made and properly seconded. This goes on, and it says all motions to table that have not been taken up by the June Commission meeting in the same fiscal year for which the motion was made die for lack of action. I think that's the only one that really needs any explanation. The others are all self-explanatory. If anybody has any more questions, I'm glad to take that.
Any questions of Commissioner Green on the rules changes that are being proposed here? Commissioner Greer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like an explanation for the last sentence in Section 2.
Last sentence being all motions to table that have not been taken up by the June Commission meeting in the same fiscal year in which the motion was made shall die for lack of action. Is that your question?
Yes. Yes.
Bobby, you've worked on these. Why don't you come up and address that, because you were counseling and guiding the Rules Committee through this. If you would address that, Commissioner Greer.
Glad to, Mr. Chairman. The purpose for that rule is that the rule is only, the motion that you do cannot be effective after your term, and every year your term ends on the fiscal year, which is June. So it automatically will die. You can't have a motion that goes into the next fiscal year.
Is that the motion to table, or is that the original motion?
It's whatever was tabled.
Okay.
Whatever was tabled. So if it was just the amendment, that motion on the amendment table dies. If it was both of them will die.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions while Bobby's up? I see none. So 1009-5, amending the rules. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Commissioner Hester, please. Record a vote, please.
24 yes.
Thank you. Resolution unanimously adopted, 24 yes, 0 no. Resolution 10099, resolution authorizing the withdrawal from traffic shed number 18 for the purchase and installation of speed tables and for the construction of improvements to the Clovercroft Road and Oxford Glen Drive intersection. Commissioners Wilson and Para.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Para. Highway Department approved this, 5-4, 0 against. Budget Committee.
5-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioners Wilson and Para.
Basically, this talks about the, in the traffic shed 18, that was an account that was set up by the Highway Commission, and that was a measure that was actually done to make improvements in the Oxford Glen area. There were many residents that came out to the highway meetings and expressed interest about increased traffic going through those areas. We came up with an idea to install 3 10.5-foot speed tables, and these are to be used and try it out. We've never done that really in the highway department before. So this will be done, and this is designated money that will be used toward those improvements, and then also to go for the Clovercroft Road and Oxford Glen Drive intersection improvements there.
Commissioner Parr, any follow-up, please, sir?
I appreciate Eddie Hood and the rest of the commission, Highway Commission, working on this. I appreciate all the citizens that came out to speak to it. I think this is a good thing also to reduce the traffic on there, and the combination of putting a light and cutting down the hill at the intersection should make it a lot more safe. There's been several accidents there, and I think this definitely improves the safety of the constituents. Thank you.
Commissioner Hester, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I correct that there were something like 3,500 cars a day in the traffic study done in this area? Or
I don't remember. To answer that, Commissioner Hester, I don't remember the exact number, but Roger's being chairman of that. Maybe you can help me on that.
That is correct. That number went from, and it was all because of the commercial development that's occurring in the Cool Spring area and the shortcuts that they're taking. It's just a cut-through road, kind of like what Carlisle is now here off of Highway 96. And it's gone up from about 700 to 3,500 cars, and it was an enormous amount of traffic, and we were all shocked at that. So you'll see next month, Commissioner Parra is bringing before you, these are the three speed humps, brakes, whatever you want to call them, slow people down. We looked at it over in Jack brought it up to us again in budget. We want to do this for 1 year, as Cheryl has said, get some data on it, see if it works. If it works, then we've got some other communities we need to be looking at it. We've had another request since this. This is something we had to abide by the school buses, how they could get over them. And there was a lot of data that went in here. Next month, you're going to see we're working on the intersection out on Clovercroft, and the city of Franklin's agreed to pay 25% of the cutting of the hill. There's two different steps there. It's about a $300,000 will be taken out of fund balance on the highway side. So we're trying to make improvements out there on that road and deal with those issues as we come out, because clearly there's a few cars going through that subdivision.
Follow-up, Commissioner Hester.
yes, sir, if I could ask one more brief question about the cost of these speed humps.
Well, if I can address it, that resolution there, the bids came in a little bit early, a little bit less than what we said or what we projected. But as you can see, that in the amount of about $11,000, a little over $11,000 for three of these. The homeowners association is working with us. We're taking the money out of the traffic shed, as Commissioner Wilson indicated, which we're not really having to take out of the highway funds, which is just another way to fund a project. And there'll be three of them strategically placed, and you'll hear thump, 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 thump if you live nearby there. But the homeowners have agreed to work with us out there, and we're all excited to see how this works because we've never used them in the county. They're throughout your cities, but this is the first time the county's taken this step. And I thank Eddie for at least trying this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Hancock, please, you're recognized.
Yes, that answered my question. We have some areas that I represent that's got a problem with cut-through traffic. It's wearing them out. I also noticed that the state, I might add, when they were doing Columbia Highway, at the edge of the road, they got some kind of technique where they have a ripple effect, and it will absolutely get your attention when you get over there, so that may be something.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Is that what they call it? It works. Thank you.
And Highway 96 has the indentures in the road. If you're driving down that road, just happen to doze off a little, they're on your interstates too. You go.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brockman, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So obviously, once you get everyone together and determine the effectiveness of these once they're installed and you get the feedback, it will be setting a precedent if it is deemed effective and everyone is pleased with the results, it will be setting a precedent throughout the county that others can ask for this, and then those funds need to be found in a variety of ways.
It'll
Not
be
a-
up to you to vote.
Okay.
We'll have the data for you, and we think it'll work. We've tried radar guns, and that is not slowing them down.
Thanks.
Commissioner Walton, you recognize, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And several years ago, the mayor formed a committee, which I chaired, on these speed tables and different traffic calming devices. And there are several other things that we've learned that I liked, including these things. But I was going to make an amendment, but I'll just wait and throw it out there. I think that we ought to look at this for a year and come back 10 to 12 months from now and look at it and set up some guidelines with this, because what's going to happen, this will open Pandora's box and everybody's going to want it. So we would need to set the guidelines. I met with the traffic engineer that did it in Davidson County, and part of it was a disaster there. They went in and put them where they thought they needed them. They got a lot of negative feedback from the residents, and you get that. Everybody likes them, but don't put them in front of my house, and that's what we're going to get. But I think we would need to possibly form another committee or something with the highway department, because I have two neighborhoods now, and had one that even went out and bought them, and the county wouldn't let them put them in, but they paid for them themselves. That's, I think, what needs to be done, or I would like to see done, because everybody's going to want them if they become effective. And I think that would wear out the effectiveness of it.
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, follow up. The drastic measures we took on this was the number that Commissioner Hester asked me about, to go from 500 or 700 to 3,500 is a number that it was really becoming a safety issue. Kids and neighbors couldn't get out, and we tried several other techniques that both of these commissioners have been there at a lot of those meetings. So this is the only thing that the engineers would come up with, because it is clearly an area that they are driving through to get to work, and it's a window.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, 7
Well,
to 8
and as I said, budget, I support it. There are several other things. There's I forget the terminology, there's a squeeze that you put in. And speed, that we learned, is a mental thing. If you're driving down the road, Highway 96 is a good example. That's real wide, it's got broad shoulders, and it's very easy to do 70 or 75 miles an hour on Highway 96, no matter what the speed is. But if it's a narrow road, if it has trees up against the road or something, psychologically you don't feel comfortable and you slow down. These are things that I would like to see incorporated in some of the planning of developments when that comes.
Any other comments, questions? Resolution.
Commissioner Aaron, I just wanted to make a comment that was at the last highway meeting or two, we talked about the fact that this would be the 1 year we would reevaluate on the speed bumps. And these are made where you can pull the speed bumps up. They are not permanent. So that at that time, if the highway department and we choose to, try that would be fine. But this is at least it's not in here, but it was mentioned. Is that not correct, Mayor Anderson? And that these are not permanent. Okay.
Commissioner Little?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make sure to follow up on Commissioner Walton's statement that he observed people doing 75 on Highway 96, that he wouldn't personally participate in that.
Good point. I noticed the sheriff back there smiling. And to address Commissioner Wilson's comments, these will be installed by the Highway Department. They are permanently attached. I don't want it to be indicated these are removable. Guess what? They may disappear next week. So they are appropriately attached to the ground by the Highway Department and can be reworked with that sort of thing. Anything else on 10099? I see none. If you're in favor of 10099, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Record a vote, please.
24 yes.
24 yes, 0 no. Resolution is unanimously adopted. Resolution 100910, a resolution authorizing the county mayor to enter into an agreement with Manatron. Commissioner Little, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Hancock, the second. Budget Committee report.
5-4, 0 against.
Explanation, please.
Williamson County currently has a contract with Manatron Incorporated for their computer-assisted mass appraisal program used by the assessor's office, and this resolution is to allow the county mayor to renew that contract.
Questions of Commissioner Little? I see none. 100910 is up for consideration. If you're in favor, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Record a vote, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
24 yes, 0 no. Resolution unanimously adopted. Resolution 100911, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into an agreement with the Department of Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities. Commissioner Chalfant, please.
Move for approval.
Motion made and seconded. Who is the second? Commissioner Barnwell. Law Enforcement Committee.
7 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Budget Committee.
5-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Chalfant, please.
Well, we're required by public charter or chapter to pay to the state the cost of mental evaluation and treatment for dependents or defendants that are charged, and by doing this, we should end up with a better or reduced cost.
Any questions of Commissioner Chalfant on 10-911? I see none. If you're in favor of this resolution, press your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Everybody voted. Record a vote, please, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
24 yes, 0 no. And then finally, Resolution 100917, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a lease agreement for the Williamson County Recovery Facility. Commissioner Hayes, please.
Move approval.
Second, Commissioner Lynch. Municipal Solid Waste Board report.
3-4, 0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Hayes.
Yes, the time was up on our former contract with our operators of our materials recovery facility, and bids went out, and they were opened last Thursday. Work was done to make sure of who should receive the bid, and because of that decision being made and needing to start on November the 1st was the reason that we thought it was necessary to file the late resolution. The one to receive the bid was Summerall Recycling Services out of Summerall, Mississippi. They have a very good reputation, and they will be operating our facility. This does not in any way mean that we won't still be doing everything we're doing with Williamson Recycles and Keep Williamson Beautiful. This is the part of the recovery facility that's on Century Court. One thing I do want to say, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is that the success of our program is always being brought home to us, and we received information today about the Good Sports the Good Sports Award that is a recycling award that is presented by the Eastman Chemical Company, the Knoxville Coca-Cola Bottling Company, Waste Connections, Food City, and the University of Tennessee. And I know you always are hearing on the UT Games, Good Sports always recycle. Well, this is part of their program. Freedom Intermediate School was one of the winning schools, 10 winning schools, and they were an outstanding school in the environmental effort. With that being one of the 10,
They're going to be treated to a VIP treatment at the University of Tennessee versus South Carolina football game on October the 31st, as well as receive a $500 award for their efforts. So we're very proud of our Franklin Intermediate School, and they've been a part of our program since the onset of Williamson Recycles and Keep Williamson Beautiful. We're very proud of them, and we hope everybody will congratulate them. And we're told if any of you go to that UT game, stop by the Circle Park and congratulate our young people. They do us proud. And with that, we would ask for your permission for us to allow the mayor to sign a contract so we may go forth with our materials recovery. Lewis is here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Commissioner Hayes. Any questions on 100917? See no questions? If you're in favor of 100917, press the yes button. Everybody's voted. Record a vote, Ms. Anderson.
24 yes.
24 yes, and 0 no. Resolution is unanimously adopted. Any other announcement of any sort?
We just want to thank.
We want to thank Commissioner Cook for the Snickers and the peanuts. I've done some trading up here on Swap the Snicker for some peanut M&Ms. So thank you very much. Anything else? I'll entertain a motion if we adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're in adjournment till the month of November.